November 21st, 1842. The Sisters of the Holy Family, New Orleans, Louisiana. The formation of the Sisters of the Holy Family had its start in 1727, when the Ursuline sisters from France arrived in New Orleans to establish a convent and school that included African, Native and Creole girls among their first catechism and boarding students. The convent or Old Ursuline Convent is located in the Vieux-Quart, French Quarter. In 1812, Father Louis William Dubourg is named Administrator Apostolic of the Diocese of Louisiana and the Floridas. By 1815, Father Dubourg travels to France then Rome to present problems of church in Louisiana. Father Dubourg is consecrated bishop in Rome. Bishop Dubourg proceeds to recruit for his diocese in Louisiana. In 1817, Sister Marthe Fontier of Les Dames Hospitaliers Sister in Belle, affiliated with Ursuline Sisters, arrives from France to take over instruction of African women and education of free girls of color at the Ursulines Girls' School, New Orleans. By 1823, Sister Marthe Fontier had established a second school for free girls of color on St. Claude Street. Many of the Sisters of the Holy Family were later from this school. Henriette DeLille and Juliette Gordon of Cuba were day students at the school. When the Ursulines moved to New Convent downriver in 1824, Sister Fontier remains in the city at the old convent and school. Henriette and Juliette assisted Marthe Fontier. The girls' school was such a success that the Bishop of New Orleans Louis Dubourg asked Father Antoine Blanc, New Orleans priest who was back in France in 1824, to recruit helpers for Sister Marthe. 1827, Henriette DeLille began teaching at the school as well. 1829 St. Claude Street School has about 8 girls. Henriette, Juliette, Josephine Charles of New Orleans and Suzanne Navarre of Boston, the 4 earliest members of the Sisters of the Holy Family, began serving as godmothers to the infants and children of slaves and free people of color in the New Orleans area. 1832 Sister Marthe Fontier leaves the school to be taken over by the Ursuline Sisters. That same year, Jean-Marie Aliquot arrives in New Orleans from France in order to join the Ursulines but slips and falls into the Mississippi River while disembarking from the ship. Fortunately, an African man dived into the river and rescued her. In response to that experience, she vowed to devote her life to the city's people of color, a mission not possible as a member of the Ursulines. 1834, Jean-Marie Aliquot bought a new facility to house the school on St. Claude Street. When she saw that there were 6 or 8 young quadroon or octoroon ladies who wished to band in order, she was delighted and offered herself as mistress of novices. 1836 Jean Aliquot sells school to Ursulines, leaves New Orleans. Ursulines resumed the commitment until Sisters Mount Carmel take over. Meanwhile, Henriette DeLille and her companions organize into a confraternity, the Congregation of the Sisters of the Presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Their rule stated that each woman should seek to bring back the glory of God and the salvation of the neighbor by charitable and edifying behavior. Their work was to instruct the ignorant, assist the dying, care for the needy, and the evangelization of slaves and free people of color. Women evangelizing women, assuring a little apostle in each home. Their unofficial habit was a blue percale dress and a black bonnet. 1837, Father Etienne Roussellin arrives New Orleans and becomes a chaplain to the Ursuline Convent and School on St. Claude Street School and Chapel. 1838, Sisters Our Lady of Mount Carmel take over St. Claude Street School. 1840, Father Antoine Blanc, now the Bishop of New Orleans, requests the Sisters of the Presentation in New Orleans be affiliated with the Sodality of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Rome. 1841 Rome approves the affiliation, which demonstrated that the Church had commitment to an official congregation, recognized and sanctioned by the Church. November 21st, 1842 Sisters of the Holy Family is formed. The Sisters taught school, prepared children, old women for First Communion at St. Mary and St. Augustine churches. The Sisters' concern for family life was to see that all couples had their marriages blessed by priests. The marriage of the faithful had always been an important part of the ministry of the women. From the early days they had faced a population of slaves who were forbidden to marry without the permission of masters or mistresses, thus the legitimacy of children was central to the concerns of the women. 1847, Society of the Holy Family Incorporated. 1850, Mother Superior DeLille visits the Sisters of the Sacred Heart in Convent, Louisiana to be instructed in the principles and duties of the religious life and subjected to the trials of a novice. 1851, the house where the community lived in on Bayou Road and Rampart Street was purchased. On November 21, 1852, the day of the presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the sisters took private vows. On October 15, 1852, first official vows taken, the blue dresses were traded for black ones and Sister Henriette became Mother Superior and Mistress of Novices. A school for orphaned girls was also established the same year. On November 16, 1862, Henriette DeLille dies and Sister Juliet Gordon takes over as Mother Superior. 1866, Father Etienne Roussellon dies. Father Gilbert Raymond succeeds. Father Raymond asks Mother Gordon to accept Chloe Preble, housekeeper and former slave, into community. 1867, St. Mary's Academy opens on Chartres Street while the community is split over the Chloe Preble issue. Father Raymond rents house on Chartres Street for Sisters Josephine Charles, Elizabeth Wales of Vicksburg and Marie Magdalene Elpath of Pointe-Coupé, appointing Charles as superior. 1869, Chartres Street community accepts Chloe Joachim Preble, former slave. Preble continued to work as a housekeeper until retired to orphanage to care for infants. She died of old age sitting in a rocking chair with an orphaned infant. 1872, St. Augustine's School opens in the Bayou Road Convent. 1876, St. Joseph's School opened in Opelousas. 1877, Sisters take charge of the Louisiana Asylum for colored girls. 1881, St. Mary's Academy is moved into the old Quadroon Ballroom on Orleans Avenue and a school is opened in Baton Rouge. 1886, community opens St. Augustine's Convent and School in Donaldsonville. The number of sisters in the community reach 40. 1892, St. John Butchman's Girls' Home opened. St. Maurice's School for Girls and Boys opens in New Orleans. 1893, St. Louis School for Colored Children in Carrollton opens. 1895, St. Joseph's School in Baton Rouge opens. The order grew in number in the late 19th and the first half of the 20th centuries, reaching a peak of 400 sisters in 1950. The Sisters of the Holy Family remain active today with the Mother House located in New Orleans. Its more than 300 members maintain their original ministry to serve the poor by operating free schools for children, nursing homes, and retirement homes in New Orleans and Shreveport, Louisiana, Washington, D.C., Galveston, Texas, Little Rock, Arkansas, and California in the United States, and a mission in Belize. The city of New Orleans named the street as Henriette DeLille in her honor. DeLille died in 1862 with a reputation of holiness. In 1988 her order opened the cause for her canonization with the Holy See. Her cause was endorsed unanimously in 1997 by the United States Catholic bishops. Pope Benedict XVI approved her heroic virtues and named her Venerable on March 27, 2010. The Congregation for the Causes of Saints gave its formal assent on June 22, 2010, for the commencement of the cause of beatification with the declaration of nihil obstat, nothing against. DeLille was given the title of Servant of God. A claimed miracle by her intercession was being investigated in 2005 and by 2017 other miracles attributed to her were under medical scrutiny. Amen.